Ah, wine country. Couldn't think of a better place to relax. I mean, nothing stressful happens here. Unless, of course, you don't count what's going on this weekend. Oh! We're road racing again at Sonoma. And with a repaved track, there's no telling who'll be whining about the finish.
Oh my goodness.
We're all good, though, because the new edition of Around the Track starts now.
Welcome to Around the Track, where this week we are sipping on Sonoma. Carla Gebhardt next to Gabe McDonald. So Gabe, Chardonnay, Merlot, or Ford?
You know, I'm actually more of a Pinot Grigio type of guy, but of course we're talking NASCAR here, and Ford has actually won 2 of the last 3 points races, and today we're going to catch up with the driver of the number 4 Ford, Josh Berry of Stewart-Haas Racing. Plus, Kyle Larson got his long-awaited playoff waiver after not racing the Coke 600, but did NASCAR make the right call? We're going to get into that just a bit, but first, let's stroll through Sonoma, Carl.
Yeah, let's do it, and this isn't your typical 4 left turns. Oh no, the Toyota Mart 350 is the second road course race on this Cup schedule. Sonoma Raceway goes up, it goes down, and it goes all around. It's going to be a hill to climb for a handful of winless Cup drivers on the playoff bubble, and after its first repave in over 23 years, drivers are ready to tackle this new field course.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how the repave is. Going to be a lot faster than it used to be. Used to have a ton of tire fall off, which I'm sure we won't see nearly as much anymore.
I think for Sonoma, like, the biggest thing is going to be just understanding the new surface. We're going to have a practice there to kind of get it dialed in. But for the most part, it's still Sonoma. It's just going to have a lot more grip than we're used to, and you're going to be able to attack for longer.
All right, so let's check out the track. Like we said, the 1.99-mile road course has a new surface that will be a key storyline in the race. Heading into the race, of course, there's 12 turns in total on the course. It also has 160 feet of total elevation change. Now, one of the legends of the game, Jeff Gordon, has the most Cup Series wins here with 5, but Martin Truex Jr. leads active drivers with 4 victories. But it's Kevin Harvick who owns the fastest lap at Sonoma. With that, let's go ahead and head trackside.
All right, well, it is now time to head trackside to the beautiful wine country. We got Aaron Wilson standing by at Sonoma Raceway right now. And Aaron, we know it is going to be hopefully very beautiful, like we said, this weekend. But what can you tell us about the track conditions and the weather that drivers are expecting this weekend?
Yes, like you just mentioned, beautiful weather, right? But when you talk about the track conditions, one of the biggest storylines around the track this time around is for the first time in 23 years, the entire track has been repaved. Now, all of the strategy that they've had years past coming to the Sonoma Raceway, well, it's different because it's much smoother, and that's the biggest storyline when it comes to the road course. One of the guys expected to possibly be victorious is pretty successful on this track. The betting odds are leaning in the favor of Martin Truex Jr. That's because, one, he's won 4 times on this track here. And, well, that's been since 2013. And his most recent race coming just last season. So, obviously, he doesn't have a win so far this season. And, of course, to solidify that spot in the playoffs, he needs one.
Aaron Wilson, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
And here on Around the Track, we have a nice little rotation of the best NASCAR analysts and journalists. But when this guy is in studio, the whole studio listens because he is one of the best. The Athletics' Jordan Bianchi back in the building. And Jordan, wine will be on the menu for one driver on Sunday.
They will. That's why I'm here. I heard something about wine. You guys offering? How are we doing this?
I have a few glasses to pour up for you.
After the show. Yeah. Let's start with the fact, though, that Sonoma just got a fresh surface, their first repave in 23 years. We've said that a couple of times now on the show. But this is an added element for drivers to have to navigate this weekend.
It is. The lap times there are going to be about 3 to 4 seconds faster. And Sonoma typically is a track that has high tire wear. But because there isn't high tire wear here this round, it's going to flip strategy and everything. And that's going to be interesting to see how crew chiefs navigate this. This typically was a race where you split this race in kind of thirds and you pit here, save your tires, manage it to the end. Now it's completely different, though. We don't know how that's going to change.
Yeah, drivers never love a repave, even when it's on a road course. How about this, though? I saw that there is a new wall where tire barriers used to be. How much trouble is that going to offer drivers?
I mean, looking at the photos and talking to some people, it's going to be a challenge. That area before was kind of open. It funneled in there a little bit, but you had an escape road where if drivers needed to get through there and something happened in front of them, they could and would maneuver around there. Now, though, guys are going to be bouncing off that wall. Theoretically, they're probably going to be bouncing back in traffic. I would expect at least 1, if not 2 big accidents on Sunday.
Now, going into this race, Martin Truex Jr., he's obviously the obvious favorite. He still doesn't have a win this season, though. You also have a lot of other winless drivers. Joey Logano, your defending champ Brian Blaney, even Kyle Busch, to name a few. But which winless driver do you think faces the most pressure as we head into the summer stretch?
It's got to be Logano, just because of where he's at in the standings right now. Truex is comfortably ahead in the standings. Blaney's pretty good, and he's had some speed this year. Should have probably maybe won last week at Gateway. Obviously ran out of fuel. But you look at it this year, Joey Logano just has not had the results, and that has him below the playoff cut line. And with Austin Cindric, his teammate, winning a week ago, that pushes Logano down even further. He's going to probably need a win here sometime over the next few weeks to get playoff eligibility.
I know a lot of people would look at, the past winners and say Kyle Busch has won on this track a couple of times. Do you see that even being a chance for him this weekend?
Listen, you never doubt Kyle Busch, two-time champion here. He's won here before. He won here in 2015 coming off of hellacious leg injuries, right? So you just don't doubt him. But it just doesn't seem like it's in the cards right now. Yeah. But as Austin Cindric showed last week, things happen, upsets happen, and if you're looking for a long shot, you could do a lot worse than Kyle Busch.
Yeah, you got to be in the right place at the right time like Austin Cindric was. But NASCAR did finally grant Kyle Larson this waiver that we have been talking about at nauseum after missing the Coca-Cola 600. Now, most people would agree NASCAR made the right decision here. Do you feel that way? And does the waiver process need to be a thing moving forward?
I'm a stickler when it comes to the waiver, so I would have said no, but I understand NASCAR's thinking here. And honestly, in the big picture, it made a smart move, because if you don't give Kyle Larson a waiver, that's going to hang over the sport as this black cloud throughout the entire year. And honestly, when you come to playoffs, Kyle Larson's going to still be a factor, and anytime he does something well, wins a race or wins a stage or something of that nature, they're going to be like, well, why isn't Kyle Larson championship eligible? And I hate asterisks, but there really could have been an asterisk next to the champion this year if Kyle Larson wasn't playoff eligible.
Going back to Ryan Blaney for a little bit, a lot of bad luck. I mean, you look at the Coke 600 having that flat tire, even last week running out of fuel. How does that 12 team be able to shake this right now going into the summer stretch?
I mean, honestly, they've got to be used to it, because they've been down this road before where they just have had bad luck and performance hasn't met result. And that's the case this year. You go back to Darlington with William Byron. Byron got into him and set him in the wall. They just have had so many strong runs this year, races where they should have been in contention for top 5, top 10 finishes, and it hasn't materialized. All you can do is just pack it up and go to the next week and move on.
See if that 12 team get a win. Jordan, don't go anywhere. You still got to give your pick in a little bit later. But first, a message from the driver of the number 4 Ford for SHR.
I think long-term goal is I want to keep racing with Rodney and as many of these guys as we can.
So if that is the goal, then what's the plan to get to that goal? Despite SHR shutting down at the end of the season, rookie Josh Berry has his sights set on much more for the rest of 2024. That sit-down is next.
And NASCAR drivers have to have speed and skill, but so do those that bring the races to life on the radio broadcast. We honor a legendary career just ahead, right here on Around the Track.
So to say that the last 2 weeks have been hectic for Stewart-Haas drivers, well, that would be an understatement. But that is the case, maybe even more so for rookie driver Josh Berry, who just got to SHR for his first full-time season. However, that has not deterred his team from producing results, and it's something that we talked about in this week's Garage Confidential. Biggest news of the week was that Stewart-Haas Racing made the announcement that they are going to shut down. I know that this has been probably a pretty uncertain week for you and just a lot of emotions, but how are you and how are you handling all of this? Because I'm sure it was kind of a lot. I mean, I knew you probably knew that something was coming, but still it's big news.
Yeah, it's definitely an emotional time right now for myself, my whole race team and the whole company, right, going through that. But all in all, I think, they handled everything the best they could with all of us. And, they made the decision to go a different direction. And I think we all respect that. And I'm really thankful for the opportunity that I've had to race there. And we still have a lot of racing left to do this year.
Rodney Childers, I spoke with him last week, and he had just so many positive things to say about you, saying that he wasn't going to let you fail under his watch. I know that's kind of a pretty big statement for him to make. What does that mean to you, though, for the rest of this season and to have him have such confidence in you?
Well, I think it just shows the type of leader that Rodney is and the culture that he's built there with the 4 team at SHR and that I'm fitting into that, right? That we feel like we've had some really strong runs over the last month, and I know that everybody there has been super excited about that, and we feel like we have a lot of good races ahead of us, right? I think we're only going to get better. I'm still a rookie in this series. I'm still gaining experience here or there, going to some of these places for the first time in the Cup Series and working with those guys. So I feel like that, if we keep continuing the path that we're on, that we're going to, find ourselves up front more often, and that's what we're trying to do.
I know Rodney says he wants to kind of keep everybody together. I'm sure you share that same sentiment as well. But what is the goal for the rest of the season for the team, and a long-term goal for you? Like, what's the best case scenario?
Well, I think, for this year, our results have been continuously getting better over the course of the year, and now we kind of find ourselves right outside that playoff cutoff. So now, even from at the beginning of the year where maybe we're just trying to establish ourselves, kind of get our footing, now we're kind of looking at the playoff cut line and kind of paying more attention to that. And we feel like if we can get on a strong run and continue what we've been doing over the last month and a half, that maybe with some fortune, I think that we can claw our way into that battle. And I think that would be that's definitely a steep goal for a rookie to be able to do that. But we feel like we can do that. We feel like we're running well enough when we execute good days. And outside of that, we're still in the battle for the Rookie of the Year. I think that myself and Carson have both had honestly really good seasons, I think, for rookies. So that's going to be a battle all the way to Phoenix. And in the meantime, I think long-term goal is I want to keep racing with Rodney and as many of these guys as we can.
You mentioned the playoffs. What would that mean for you to be able to do that, not only as a rookie, but to do it when so much is going on around you right now?
Yeah, no, that would be a big deal. And honestly, coming off of third place at Darlington, a top 10 in the 600, I think we start to see the potential that we have, right? And I think that's what's opening our eyes, that if we can keep executing and keep getting better, that might be a possibility. I still think that's a tall task, but I think it's important in the sport and in racing to move your goals as needed, right? I think from the start of the year, we were kind of just taking it week by week and seeing how we do. And now that we've been doing better, we're raising the bar from, maybe just competing for Rookie of the Year to being a playoff contender. And we feel like that if we keep with the potential we've been showing, we can be right on the edge of that.
How are you feeling about Sonoma?
I feel pretty good. We did a tire test there in the spring and made a lot of laps, and gave me a great opportunity to kind of explore some things with the car and learn. And then from Rodney's side and our team side, we feel like we learned a lot with our cars. So I think that we can kind of hopefully put all that together and come up with a plan when we go back this weekend. But we feel like we can be more competitive. I feel like I'll be more prepared going there, having those laps. And obviously with it being a repave, it's going to be a bit of an unknown. And, really having laps there is probably, a little bit of an advantage for us too.
What makes that track unique when you're looking at it?
It's just so technical, I feel like, as a racetrack, right? It's just so, especially with the old pavement, right? It was so, the tires wore a lot, and you could use the curbs and things a lot to help your car. So I think, now it's going to be interesting to see how that changes with the repave, but it's still going to be, when we go back, it's going to be probably 4 or 5 seconds faster, really high commitment in some of those sections, and it's going to be easy to make a mistake, dip a tire off, and make your day a lot harder. So it's going to be interesting for sure to see how it is when we get back.
Thanks again to Josh Berry and Stuart Haas Racing for the time. Still to come on Around the Track, Front Row Motorsports is doing its best to get ahead of the crowd, making moves for 2025 right now. It starts with keeping one of their own, and that's coming up next right here on Around the Track. Back here on Around the Track, we know NASCAR race team Front Row Motorsports will house 3 charters starting in 2025, and as of this week, they've got 1 driver locked in with an extension. The team announced they have extended Ty Gilliland to a multi-year deal. Now, Gilliland currently drives the number 38 for Front Row, but as of right now, there's no update on what number he will drive going forward for the team.
I'm super excited. Definitely, feel like I have a home at Front Row Motorsports, and just really excited to see the progress we've made, and just super excited to see where the future will take us. So, just again, thank you guys for all the support. Thank you, Bob, Jerry, everyone at Front Row Motorsports for believing in me.
And if you've ever listened to a NASCAR race on the radio, then you've heard his voice. Doug Rice is certainly a racing legend, Carla.
Yes, he is. And not for what he's ever done behind a wheel, but for how he paints a picture in your mind with his words. And as Kevin Conley explains, the impact he left and his leaving on the sport belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Greetings from Bristol Motor Speedway. I'm Doug Rice, joined in the booth as always by Mark Garrow.
Doug Rice has loved his front row seat in NASCAR as the lead announcer for the Performance Racing Network.
I enjoy going to the booth and putting on the headsets because, we hear that countdown and then all of a sudden you're on the air.
Pace car on the pit road.
It's like, here we go.
Reddick gets a little bit of jump.
There's an adrenaline rush that goes with that. That's game day. That's race day.
Rice, who grew up in Asheville, went to the World 600 with his brothers back in the day and was hooked.
The light went off and I thought, okay, this is for real. I really like it. And if you were going to cover big-time sports at that time in North Carolina, you had two choices. It was ACC basketball and stock car racing. And I didn't know anything about basketball. I learned a lot about stock car racing.
Top Groove, not the place to be at this moment.
Doug got involved in radio while at Appalachian State. He loves the intimate relationship you build with the listeners.
When our listeners driving down I-85 listening to the race, that we take them from their car and put them at the racetrack. And once we do that, that's where the magic is.
Oh, the big dogs are on the front porch here at Bristol right now.
It's storytelling. At its essence, I really think sports on the radio is good storytelling.
Hall of Famer Ken Squire was an influence, but Doug had others from a different sport.
My early influences were baseball announcers, listening back to the Braves in the 60s, and they were awful. But the guys doing the games, Ernie Johnson, Milo Hamilton, were wonderful. Here again, storytellers. And they painted these great word pictures.
Rice has called some pretty big moments in NASCAR history.
Jeff Gordon out of turn number 4. He will lay claim to his first ever Winston Cup victory.
Jeff Gordon's first win. We all knew that this guy was going to be something. But to see him win for the first time and be so emotional and crying in victory lane with Ray Evernham, that's a day that sticks with you for a long time.
And who could forget the first race on the Roval?
They touch. Jimmy Johnson spins.
When Martin Truex Jr. and Jimmy Johnson wrecked just a few feet short of the finish line.
Ryan Blaney will survive and win.
And Ryan Blaney kind of snuck in and won. And those things stick with you.
So Rice will forever be a part of the soundtrack of the sport.
I think there are periods in the sport that will be remembered for different people. For Richard Petty, for Jeff Gordon, for Dale Earnhardt Sr., for guys like that as drivers. But there's also periods in this sport that will be remembered for Barney Hall, for Ken Squire, and for Doug Rice, because that's the voice that you heard. That's the voice that brought you to the sport. That's the voice that brought you your heroes.
You will still be able to hear Rice on some weekly PRN programs in the future.
Hi, I'm Doug Rice, joined by Alexis, Brad, and Kyle Petty.
But as he takes a step back, he plans to travel the U.S. with his extra time.
I think that chapter's
You think Asphalt will come back?
And there's no doubt a radio with a race on
Meanwhile, Chase Elliott
will be close by.
Now Chase Elliott moved to the top side of the racetrack, and he's finding.
Well, who will take the checkered flag in Sonoma? This guy has pretty good odds and for good reason, but is NTJ our pick? Our Victory Lane locks, those are next.
Back on Around the Track and checking out the odds from Vegas for Sonoma. These are courtesy of DraftKings. Martin Truex Jr., he's predicted to take that victory sip out in wine country once again. He's the favorite at 11-2. Makes sense considering he has 4 wins at Sonoma. For the rest of the top 5, Vegas really can't decide. They got William Byron, Ty Gibbs, Kyle Larson, and Christopher Bell all at 15-2. It's going to be a tight race here when it comes to the odds.
All right, so now we got the background. Let's go ahead and get to our picks. Our Victory Lane locks. Jordan, you're always pretty good at these. So who do you have going into Sonoma?
I don't have the guy that you mentioned as one of the favorites.
No.
I have Chase Elliott, who is the active wins leader on road courses, but has never won a road course race in the next-gen car. But he does have 3 straight top 10 finishes here at Sonoma, and has the best average finish among all drivers here at Sonoma.
Okay, and you have kind of said before that you feel like this team is trending in the right direction, that they could get hot in the summer.
They are. They're looking really good right now. They look a lot like the team that won the 2020 championship. He's third in points right now, and you look at his stats, it just matches up just closely with William Byron, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, the guys we talk a lot about. Chase is knocking on that door.
All right, fans will be happy about that. Who do you have, Gabe?
Absolutely. Well, don't hate me for this, but I'm rolling with the favorite. Give me Martin Truex Jr. to go back-to-back at Sonoma and clinch his playoff spot for this season. He always heats up in the summer. Get this, guys. A third of his Cup Series wins, 11 out of his 34 in his career, have come in the months of June or July. So he heats up in the summer for those at Sonoma. So I think he's going to get it done and go back-to-back. He's going to have a little bit of wine on Sunday.
I like it.
You took the easy road.
I did.
I did.
3 of the last 5 races at Sonoma, Martin Truex Jr.'s won.
And he absolutely needs a win. Okay, second road course of the season. I'm pretty sure I picked Tyler Reddick when they went to COTA earlier this year, and he did not win, so I'm going to try it again. I'm going to pick Tyler Reddick, 23-11. He has 3 road course wins, and one has won in the next-gen car. So I feel like Maybe he gets that second win of the season in 2024, making Michael Jordan happy again. What do you think about that?
I like that pick a lot. He's kind of one of those guys that flies under the radar for some reason. We rolled off some names over some of the favorites. He wasn't mentioned, and you're like, why not? He should be. He qualifies well here. He should do well on Sunday.
Yeah. Next weekend, really quickly, we have Iowa. First race back, or first race ever for the Cup Series. What do you think about that?
I think it's great. The fans in Iowa are fantastic. They've already sold out the tickets there. It's going to be a great atmosphere, and it's long overdue. I'm really happy that NASCAR's heading back to Iowa for the first Cup Series race.
Yeah, Xfinity Series has been there before, but the first Cup race, that'll be a fun one for us to preview, but that's going to do it for us on Around the Track this week. We hope you enjoy the race out in Sonoma.